What's happening there? Contractor Profit Blueprint. We are live here. I'm just getting finished up with getting live on TikTok here, and then we're ready to rock and roll. So bear with me 1 second. Running just a couple minutes behind today, and we'll be ready to get going. We're talking about sales. It's going to be a good one. Oops. I see one person jumped on. I see two people jumped on. Do me a favor, throw your name in the chat so I know who you are, or just go up above this post. Should be a link that you can add your name to. And I have no idea how I got sunglasses on my face here. Got some soccer sunglasses on TikTok. That's cool. No, I know. I have no idea. There we go. Woo. All right. All right, guys. We're live on all the platforms, and today we're talking about sales. And you're going to want to stick around to the end. This will be about 45 minutes long. You're going to want to stick around to the end because I have a announcement to make that you're going to want to hear. So, and it has to do with sales. So, what is going on TikTok? It's really annoying. So sorry about this, guys. It's always hard to find live on there. And all right, there we go. Cool. I like to pull it up on my computer so I can see the comments. That way I don't miss any questions you guys have. If you have any questions for me while I'm going live here, just drop them in the comments. I'll answer them for you, preferably if they're about sales. But if you have something else that's just burning on your mind that you want to talk about, throw them in the comments and I will answer those for you. Hey, Plummy Tips, good to see you on here. I don't know if anybody else jumped on. I may have missed you. But yeah, we're going to be talking about sales. So, a lot of people don't really think about sales as it's an important or critical part of your contracting business, especially in the last couple of years as it's been going gangbusters with the amount of people that are wanting work done, right? When the phone's ringing off the hook, we don't really think about sales in the capacity of, well, I need to get good at sales because there's so many people calling in and I'm winning these, I'm throwing crazy numbers out there and I'm winning these jobs and I don't really, need to worry about getting good at sales. And that can be deceiving because at some point the phone's going to stop ringing, right? Or stop ringing as much. And so each sale after that, each phone call that you get after that, each lead that comes in is going to be even more important that you do a good job at. But even really more important than closing deals is actually weeding through the sales calls, the leads, and getting rid of the tire kickers, right? For a lot of people now, the biggest problem with sales is eliminating tire kickers or not even tire kickers, but just leads that aren't as good, right? Because a lot of us will, if it's slim pickings, if there's not much work out there, we may work for a client that we know is possibly going to be a pain in the butt, right? They may not be the ideal client, but hey, man, I got to put food on the table, so I'm going to work for this client, even though I'm going to have to keep my mouth shut and bite my tongue and get through this. And that's different whenever the phone's not ringing, but when the phone is ringing, you're like, I don't want to deal with that person. I got 15 other people calling me. I don't want to deal with that hard to deal with customer. I'm just going to cherry pick all of the really good ones. But sometimes you don't know. Sometimes you don't know if they're going to be good or not. You may have some type of pre-qualification process already in place, but a majority of you are, still doing free estimates. So do me a favor, if you still do free estimates, even if you pre-qualify 'em, it doesn't matter. If you go out to their house for free, drop a 1 in the comments. I just wanna get kind of a pulse of how many people are still doing free estimates in their business. Um, if you're charging like 50 bucks, then you could consider that not being free. I still consider 50 bucks being free because 50 bucks doesn't cover anything, right? So plumber man, he says nothing is free. He's right. I got one person on Facebook says one. I don't know who you are because I can't see your your name. If you guys are on Facebook, there's a link right above this video. I think you should be able to click on that. Just allows me to see your name on Facebook. Otherwise, I have no idea who you are. But I see 3 people said one. And so that's pretty common that we're still doing free estimates. But when you have, like 15, 20 people a week or 10 calls, 10 leads a week that you're going out on for free, that can be a huge time suck, like a really, really, really big time suck. And I think, and I'm going to wait on this because I want to get to this here in a second. The reason why a lot of us do this is because that's just how we've been taught. That's what everybody else does. And that's what our quote competition does is free estimates. And so we just by nature do them. And by the way, I did free estimates for the first 9 years I was in business, right? So I'm not like that's what I was taught. That's what everybody else that I knew did was free estimates. It wasn't until I got actual training and understood why you don't need to do free estimates. There's really no need whatsoever to do free estimates. Now, some of you may say, like, well, I'm in a very specific niche. I have a certain specific circumstance, and therefore I have to do free estimates. And I'm not going to argue with you on that. There may be some certain circumstance or some specific trade or niche that you have to do free estimates. Like I said, I'm not going to argue with that. I just personally have not met one yet. I have not personally met a trade that basically has to do free estimates, or there's no possible way that they're going to get the job, right? Most of that is just head trash or a belief system that that's what we have to do. And it's because we don't understand that you can pre-qualify people over the phone ahead of time, and then when you go out to their house, you can actually charge them for the consultation. Now, I've used the term charge for estimates, also charge for consultation, but just to be specific, when I say charge for estimates, I'm really talking about charging for a consultation, okay? It's just people understand estimates to know that when you go out to someone's house to get their measurements, to give them a price, like that's providing an estimate, right? So I use that term loosely. What I'm really talking about doing is doing paid consultations because it is a legitimate service. You're literally providing a service of going out to their house, meeting with them, talking about all their ideas, telling them what's possible or not possible, working through plans, designs, all of these things that you're doing, and then giving them an estimate on a piece of paper or some type of estimate, and then they're deciding if they want to do that or not, right? That is a service. You are providing a legitimate service by doing that. Now, if you're just going out there and all you're doing is taking a tape measure and measuring out the thing and then saying, here's your estimate, and you're not giving them any ideas, you're not talking to them or answering any questions or like working through solutions to problems. If you're not doing any of that, if you're literally just taking measurements and giving them an estimate, then that would probably be considered doing an estimate, right? But the rest of it, the predecessor to what I just said, the first one is it's a consultation. That's literally what you're doing is a consultation. So there is value in what you're doing. And it's been brainwashed into our brain that we have to do this, that we have to provide free estimates. And it's simply not true, guys. It's not true. I know hundreds and hundreds of contractors who charge for consultations and get it every day, have no problem whatsoever. It fundamentally changes the way they run their business. It makes life 10 times easier for them, and they would never like, they would cut off one of their arms before they ever go back to doing free estimates. So it's not a matter of does it work? It's been proven in every city, country, trade, it's been proven that you can charge for consultations. So it's really not even an argument whatsoever. The only argument that you can have at this point is with your own belief system, right? Like, I just believe that it's not possible. That's a you problem. That's not an industry problem. That's not a tactic problem. That is a you problem. You have to look in the mirror and then, like, argue with yourself about your own belief. Now, one of the things that we do, one of the very first things that I do in my coaching programs and even with one-on-one coaching is really kind of do a lobotomy on you, like, extract out all that head trash that you have about what's possible. You know, one of the things I love to do on our coaching calls, because we have weekly coaching calls in our group, is if I have a new member that's coming in who just joined the group and still has a lot of this head trash, and, you know, they're saying, "Well, I'm really struggling with getting a 50% gross profit. I'm really struggling with charging for consultations. I'm struggling with these things." Is I just say, "Hey, everybody on this call right now, raise your hand if you charge for a consultation." And everybody who's been in for more than a minute, everybody raises their hand. And so now there's instant proof that it's that people are doing this in other, you know, across the country. And then I'll say, "How many of you are getting 50% gross profit or near there?" And everybody raises their hand. So that sometimes you just need this proof that it's possible, right? Because on the outside, it's almost like you're in a line of protesters and you're standing outside this building and you're protesting against the people inside the building. If you think of it kinda like the government, right? You got the building is like the Capitol building. You got protesters outside the building. Everybody outside the building is protesting, "Hey, you know, quit telling people that you can charge for consultations. That's a bunch of BS. You can't do that." And you're in line with all these protesters with your picket signs saying, you know, "Free estimates are part of business. Free estimates are just part of doing business." That's what it's like. And then somebody sneaks in or gets let in, and they go inside this building, and the building's filled to the rim with hundreds of contractors, and they're all sitting around talking about how they charge for consultation, how much they get, how much it changes their life, how much easier their sales process is. And all of a sudden, you've been removed from the noise of all of the protesters out there with their signs. You're now, quote, "on the inside," and you're with the people that are saying, "Yeah, we don't the protesters out there, they've been protesting since the beginning of time." Since the first probably since Jesus walked on earth as a carpenter, somebody's been protesting saying that you gotta do free estimates, right? And it's never gonna change, ever. 100 years from now, probably people still be protesting that you have to do free estimates, and that's simply because they're on the wrong side. They're not on the inside, they're on the outside of what's really happening. So I just wanted to paint that visual, and hopefully it kinda resonates with you that it is possible, because it is. Like, fundamentally, it's possible. It's been proven. It's arguable. I don't know if that's a correct phrase or terminology, and if that doesn't show that, like, I'm not the smartest person on earth, like, I suck at language. I don't even know the difference between a verb and an adjective. Like, if you put a gun to my head and say, "What's the difference?" I'd probably die, 'cause I'm not that smart when it comes to, like, knowing English, right? Proper ways of talking. But what I am very good at is understanding human behavior and understanding how to talk to people, how to use tonality, how to use certain tactics to get information, how to ask calibrated questions to get the prospect to open up and tell me everything I need to know about them and why they're wanting to do this project. So, what I really wanted to get into today is really more along the lines of some of the tactics of what we use to pre-qualify people, because I want you to have some level of takeaway that you can use in your business and hopefully help you at least pre-qualify a little bit more than what you're currently doing. So even if you are still doing free estimates, you'll have a better understanding or a better idea of what kind of customer you're dealing with, right? And so one of the things that we do is we ask calibrated questions, and calibrated questions are just it's just a fancy word for specific questions that are open-ended questions. So anytime you're having a conversation with someone that you want to learn more about them, you always ask open-ended questions. So like a pickup line for someone, you go to a bar, it's like, "Hey, you come here often?" And they simply say, "Yes," or "No," and then the conversation's over, right? It would be better off to say, "Hey, I don't know if you've been here before, but what's your favorite, thing about this place? What's your favorite drink?" And now they can't say yes or no. Now they have to give me more information. "Well, I really like coming here because I usually don't get guys coming up and hitting on me." Oh, that's a pretty interesting, response. I've never heard that before. Does that happen often? Now that's a direct question. Does that happen often? And they can say yes or no, right? Or what about that, really annoys you? I can see why that would be annoying if, people are constantly coming up and hitting on you. What specifically about that really annoys you? That's another open-ended question, and you're getting them to give more information. You do the same thing with your customers. "How long you been thinking about doing this project?" Shut your mouth and let them answer. "Well, we've been thinking about doing this for 6 months." "Oh, 6 months, wow. What's made you wanna do it now?" "Well, we finally, got some things taken care of and, came across a little bit of money with some bonuses at work, and so now we think we got the money that we need. We've been saving up a little bit, plus this bonus is gonna put us over the top of where we think we need to be able to do this project, and we're ready to get going." Now that simple question may not seem like very much information, but if that was a real conversation, that customer just gave you a ton of information, a ton of gold. They've told you they've been saving up for their money, saving up for the project. They just came across some money at work, and they said that they think the money that they've saved up for is enough to do the project. Now I wanna know more information, right? Because how did they come to the conclusion, or how did they come to the realization of how much money they need? Like, I'm not just gonna wake up and be like, "Hey, I'm gonna do a bathroom remodel. I think it's probably gonna be $15,000, so I'm gonna start saving up." More than likely, they've done some level of research, or they've talked to another contractor in the past. Maybe 6 months ago, they called a contractor and was like, "Hey, can we get an estimate on a bathroom?" Maybe they thought it was gonna be $6,000. The contractor goes out there, tells them it's gonna be 15,000. "Wow, that's way too much. We can't afford that right now." And so now they have a number of 15, and so now they're gonna start saving up, right? And so they've been saving up for 6 months, they got a bonus, now they got $15,000, and now they believe that that's gonna be enough to do their project. But what if it's not? What if your price for doing that same project is $20,000? Now they're in the same boat, right? You go out there, you give them a 20K project price, and they're like, "Well, we can't afford that. We thought it was gonna be 15." And you're like, "No, I gotta do it for 20." "Well, we can't afford that." And then you get pissed off because they're, quote, "wasting your time," because they don't have a realistic budget. All of that stuff could be avoided by simply asking better questions over the phone, by asking better calibrated questions. And a lot of this it's hard to teach on a 40-minute, 45 minutes, live, but a lot of the questions that we ask are actually kind of piggyback questions, and so we use different tactics like labeling or mirroring, which are just, fancy words for tactics, to get more information out of them, right? And so if they say something like, in that scenario, "We've been saving up, for a while now, and we think we have enough money." I may say something like, "Oh, that makes sense. Did did you have a a number in mind, or how did you come across the amount of money that you needed to save up for? And they may tell me, "Well, we had a contractor came out 6 months ago and gave us a price." "Oh, okay." How I'm just curious, well, how much did they tell you it was gonna be? Well, they told us it was gonna be 15,000. Oh, okay, okay. I mean, just out of curiosity again, why didn't you call the other contractor back? Or what made you call us instead of the other contractor? So I'm just they're follow-up questions to the conversation. It's not like, "Here's a list of questions that I need to ask in order," like an interrogation. "Okay, come in, sit down right there, son, sit down." You know, "Where were you at on the night of October 6th at 10 PM? And who were you with? And why did you go there that night?" Like, that's what a lot of us do. We're literally we're trying to interrogate our customers, even if you have the questions. Some of you on my Facebook group have gotten a copy of my 8 questions, or if you listen to my podcast, you've gotten it there. And so you have the questions that you need to ask, or the base questions, but then you're just like you're reading from a script. "How long you been thinking about doing this? What's got you excited to do it now?" And you're going through this, but you're asking the questions like it's an interrogation, because they're answering the question, and then you're asking the next question, and then asking the next question, right? So if you don't understand how tonality plays into that, if you don't understand how to use the different tactics like labeling and mirroring, it allows you to get further, deeper into the conversation, into the reason. The number one goal that everyone should have on a sales call is to find out the motive. It's to find out why they're doing this project. A lot of us, we think the purpose of the sales call is to get scope of work, to find out their schedule, and to, get a price if we can, get their budget if we can. And those are important, don't get me wrong, those are important. Those are facts or data points that we need to know, but that's not the way we go about getting them. The purpose of the sales call is to connect with the customer and to be able to show them through the conversation itself why we're different, what's different about us, and how we stand out amongst all the other contractors that maybe they've talked to. A lot of contractors that I talk to say, quality. I say, "What makes you different?" "Well, the quality our quality. Our quality speaks for itself." No, guys, sorry. Quality does not separate you from everyone else. Contrary to what you may believe, a majority of contractors out there, an overwhelming majority, if I had to guess, I don't have an exact number, but if I had to guess, probably 70% of the contractors out there in the world do quality work. Like, eye for eye, same level quality work, right? But we hear horror stories about contractors who took money and left, who did a crappy job. We've gone out and we gotta fix somebody else's work, that's done crappy work, and so we just start to believe that, like, the majority of contractors do crappy work, and we're one of the few. We're like only 10% of the contractors that do good work, and so it's easy for us if we're 10% and then 90% are doing crappy work. It's easy to say we do quality work, and that's what we sell ourselves on. That's not the reality. The reality is majority of contractors do quality work. The overwhelming majority do quality work. But quality does not sell jobs. Quality gets the phone to ring. If someone sees a picture of a kitchen that you did that's beautiful, and they throw it on Face or you throw it on Facebook and they see that picture, like, "Wow, this looks really nice. This is what we want. I'm gonna call this contractor." Quality gets the phone to ring. It is not a value add that you can hang your hat on to sell a job. Not. I'm not saying it's not important, it is, but it's not what sells the job, and so if you believe that all you have to do is quality work and my work speaks for itself, it doesn't speak for itself. Your work doesn't speak for yourself. A lot of contractors get caught up in this. I've talked to and coached contractors that have been doing this for 20 something years, successfully for 20 years, and now they're running out of work. They're not getting leads, and the reason is because in the past, when you had the yellow pages and there was no such thing as the internet, everything was based on word of mouth and referrals, and so the work that you did was extremely important. Today, especially the younger buyers, they're completely online and using, social media and the internet to pre-qualify and find people, right? So these contractors that have been doing it for 20, 30, 40 years successfully, all of a sudden, they're running out of work, and that's because all of the older customers have now moved past the point of their life where they're remodeling. They're in their, late 60s, 70s, 80s, whatever, and they're not remodeling anymore, they're conserving money. The younger generations are not going through those traditional methods. Now a lot of them are just searching online on Google or on Facebook, and they're not adapt to that. And so, if you don't understand this and you keep doing things the way that you used to be doing, you're gonna eventually run out of leads because the market will change. The market itself will change, and you won't be caught up with it, right? And the same goes with sales. And so if your quality is like, you do quality work, that's great. That's the bare minimum to entry. Like, everyone on this call should be doing quality work. If you're not doing quality work, you shouldn't even be on this call. But everybody on this call right now, this live, is, I'm assuming, doing quality work, and it's completely subjective. We can I could walk into anybody's work and critique it. Every one of you on this call could walk into any job I've done and critique it. Nobody's gonna walk in and be like, "Wow, there's not a single thing wrong with this. Like, this is top-notch stuff," right? We can always find something to critique. So quality is completely subjective. Quality gets the phone to ring, it doesn't make the sale. So how do you make the sale? You make the sale through connection, through personal connection, right? A lot of contractors struggle with this because they have put their all of their identity, all of their self-identity is in their craft. How good of a carpenter they are, how good of a tile setter they are, how good of a landscaper they are. They put their identity in their craft, and so when someone's like, "Well, that's just too expensive. Your price is way too expensive." They get offended by that because they see that as them saying, like, "Your work's not good enough to charge that much." And then they, "What do you mean? You bunch of cheap contractors out there. Screw you. You don't know what quality is. I'll call me when they're done, and I'll come and fix their stuff, and when they're done, it'll be twice as expensive." Right? Nobody's ever thought or said stuff like that before. How do you know that? How do you know that if someone says you're too expensive, that the other contractor that they got an estimate from, how do you know that they're not just as good as you, except they don't understand business yet? They haven't been in business long enough to understand that you have to make a profit in order to stay in business. They do really good work. They're young and they're eager, and they work really hard because they wanna be successful. They just don't truly understand business and their numbers. And so they're 3 or $4,000 cheaper than you. That does not mean they're gonna do crappy work. They may actually do just as good as work as you. It just simply means that they don't understand their numbers. So we all automatically wanna say, "W what do you mean they're $4,000 cheaper?" They gotta be cutting corners somewhere. They gotta be doing something cheap. You're gonna get a crappy job. Be careful who you hire, that's too cheap. That's where we instantly go. Jim says, "I can't stay, but just thought to tell you, your content's amazing. Thanks for all your share." Thanks, Jim. Appreciate you, man. I love your stuff. It's funny. Stuff always makes me laugh. I wish I had your creativity in, the different types of posts. Anyways, that's what we instantly do is that automatically want to discredit the other contractor instead of finding out more information. Wow, $4,000 cheaper, like, how can they do it for that much? And the customer's gonna be like, I don't know. They just said they could do it for $4,000. The scope is exactly the same, you know? We actually gave them your estimate that had all the detailed scope of work, and they matched the scope and said it was gonna be the exact same thing, so I don't know how they can do it for 4,000. Man, that's if I did it for $4,000 less, I wouldn't be in business very long. I mean, that's a really good deal. You might wanna consider hiring them. And some of you be like, "Oh, no, I don't wanna give them away, I don't wanna give 'em away." But there's different tactics that have just been used there. Like $4,000, how I don't understand, how can they do it for that, right? That is a tactic of tonality and getting the client to come to their own conclusions of like, "I don't know how they can do it for that much," and they're thinking, maybe they're doing something different, maybe they missed something in their quote, maybe they're not doing as good a job. I don't know, I mean, they had I heard good things about them, but, you know, $4,000 on a $15,000 job, they're at 11, we're at 15, like, I don't know, that's quite a bit. That's a big sway, like, I just don't even understand how they can do it. I would just make sure, Mr. Client, I mean, $11,000 is a heck of a deal. I would just make sure to get everything in writing, that way you can protect yourself. And, like, I'm not suggesting that they're gonna get screwed over. I'm not saying, "You better watch it." If they're doing it for 11,000, they're definitely cutting corners somewhere. There's no way they're doing that job without cutting corners, right? I'm not saying that because, for one, I don't know if that's true. I don't say, "Well, who is it? Who is the contractor?" They go, "Oh, it's ABC Construction." "Oh, yeah. Yeah, you don't wanna hire them." No, I've heard nothing but bad things about them. They'll definitely screw you over. I'm not doing any of that stuff. I'm not bad-mouthing other contractors. I'm not, telling them that they're gonna screw you, 100% guaranteed they're gonna screw you if they're doing it for that cheap, because I don't know. I don't know that information. Most of the time when we react like that, it's out of our ego. We're butthurt now because we didn't get the job. I spent 3, 4 hours going to their house, doing the estimate, you know, building rapport, did all my rapport building with them. Because when I get in front of them, people just love me. All I gotta do is get in front of them, and I'll get the job. You went out there and you got in front of them, and you didn't get the job, and now you're pissed, right? And then they tell you it's a $4,000 cheaper, and so instantly we're now butthurt, and so now we gotta start bad-mouthing the other competition or, "Well, are you sure they're doing" "How long have they been in business?" "Have they been in business as long as I have? Because I've been in business for 250 years, so I really know what I'm talking about." Are you sure they've been in business very long? Like, that's the stuff that we wanna do whenever we find out that information later on. Wouldn't it be much easier, guys, to just find out all that information before you even go to their house, right? Just find out on the phone and be direct and get the information you need. It's a hell of a lot easier and a lot less time to find that on a 30, 40-minute phone call than it is to invest 3 to 4 hours of your time by going out to their house. Jared said never talk bad about anyone. Yeah, or Joshua said that. Jared said, "Just had a customer hire me to tear out and reinstall a new bathroom because they hired the cheaper guy who messed it up." It happens. It still happens, guys. It still happens. Who messed it up? Yeah. Just had a pool installer talk junk about my deck because he wanted to build it. Yeah, Joshua said that. Yeah, I mean, that's what we do. Like, that's the sign of immature, unprofessional contractors. We wanna badmouth everyone else. Sometimes, though, we do that because we don't know how to handle objections. It's not because we really wanna badmouth someone, it's not because we really, you know, think bad about someone else. Sometimes our ego gets in the way, and it's just out of a knee-jerk reaction because we've just been handed an objection, right? And now we have to deal with that. Um, Jared says a 16K lesson for them to learn. Yeah, some people are gonna have to learn. What Facebook user said, "What do you recommend when you go to do an estimate? Do I give them the estimate there or go home and send it later next day?" So, that really depends on your process, your sales process, right? There are, um, there are different ways to do that. Aaron just says, "Do you ever role play on your lives?" Occasionally. Uh, actually, Butters, Sierra that just joined with the eyes, uh, we've done role plays before, on the live. Joshua said, "I just keep moving. Funny, they smile on your face, though." So back to the how do you do the estimate? For me, and this is what I did in my business, we did mostly bathroom remodels. That was mostly what we did. Uh, kitchens and basements and some other stuff too, but mostly bathroom remodels. And so for me, what I would do is I would have a discovery call with the client. I would ask my questions. I would get them pre-qualified. If they're ready to move to the next step, we would do an on-site consultation. So it would be something like this. Hey, John, you know, we got 2 options we can do here, and you tell me which one makes the most sense to you. Option 1 is sometimes customers are ready to go. They're just, like, ready to just get on the schedule. Price is fine. They're ready to jump on there. All we gotta do is schedule, put them on the schedule and, collect the deposit, and we're good to go. Option 2 is sometimes people need more information. Maybe they needed to see a design, maybe they need to talk through some of the issues of their project first before they can decide if they wanna move forward. For whatever reason, they just need more information. They're not quite ready to commit to getting on the schedule. And for that, we do a consultation. Which one of those makes the most sense to you? Like, which option would make the most sense? And they'll tell you, "Well, we're not quite ready to pull a trigger yet. I mean, we think we probably will. We liked everything you've said so far. We do have a few more questions. Can we do a consultation?" "Absolutely." Yeah, I don't know if I said John. "Absolutely, John. Love to come out and do a consultation. Just so you know, we do charge $250 to come out and do a consultation. And then, as long as we move forward with the project, that gets credited to the final invoice, so you get that money back. How's that sound?" Well, that makes sense. Let's get on there. So I can schedule a consultation. Now I'm getting paid $250 to go out to their house to do the estimate, and I will require that ahead of time. Okay, great. So next thing we'll do, as soon as we get off the phone here, I'll send you over an email. I'll invoice you an email. I'll email you an invoice if I could talk clearly. As soon as we get off the phone here, I'll email you an invoice for the 250. If you can pay that, you can pay it by credit card or send a check in, whichever one you want. Once I have that money, we'll schedule the, visit and then get that going for you. Why do I do that? Because some people may tell you on the phone that they're willing to pay you 250, and then you get out to their house, they don't wanna pay you, right? So, I don't even go to their house unless they pay me first, and then that just gets credited at the so they pay it, right then or whatever, it's mail a check in, whatever they wanna do, then we schedule it, I go out to their house, and then now it doesn't matter so much, like, how long I have to turn this in. Now, like, if I'm doing, like, a bathroom estimate, I can't me personally, this is just me, I can't do the estimate on site. I mean, I can, but it's just I don't like doing it on site. I wanna go back to my house, my office, or wherever I'm going, and absolutely put a lot of thought behind this to make sure I don't miss anything, right? And then I'll send it over to them the next day or a week later or whatever you have set up. That's totally up to you. Some people have depending on what you can do an estimate right there, right? Do an estimate, if you got it figured out, if you do a basic service or if you got it down to packages or whatever it is, you can do an estimate right there on the spot, and if that's the case, then boom, write it out and give it to them, right? So, it just really depends on what you do in your process to be able to, give them the best thing. He says, "So I do bathroom and kitchen remodel. What is the best way to get the most income out of the project?" That's the wrong question to ask. What's the best way to get the most income out of the project? When I read that, and I could be way off, and maybe it's just the way you worded it. When I read what's the best way to get the most income out of a project, what I read is how can I milk them for as much money as possible? That's how I read that. If that's true, like if that's what you're asking, probably not, probably don't have the right like ethical mindset. I hope I'm just reading that wrong. If I am, please tell me. Like I hope I'm just completely misread that and that's not what you're asking me. Maybe you're asking me like people, if you're trying to get a 50% gross profit on a job and and you're only getting like 30% and you're trying to figure out how to get the extra 20, that's a totally different question. But if you're trying to like, how can I? Okay, good. Whew, I'm glad I misread that. I don't know who you are, by the way. I can't see your name, so I don't know who that is. I'm glad I misread that. So please clarify for me what you meant on that exact question. Over here, we said, I love time wasters. People absolutely waste your time. Yeah, they will. Labor and materials times two. Yeah, how to maximize his profit. Okay, you guys are having a little conversation there. Um, your price is your price, guys. Like whatever, if you and I were in the same city doing the exact same service, we're gonna have two totally different prices. It has nothing to do whatsoever with, where you live, and I mean, it does, but what I'm saying is, like, it isn't like, well, in my area, everyone charges $40 an hour. Like, that doesn't matter. What matters is how much money you wanna make, what kind of services you offer, what's your overhead, and all that stuff gets factored into how much money you can make. So to answer your question on Facebook, if you're doing, let's say you and I are bidding on this on a kitchen remodel, and we're both bidding at a 50% gross profit, meaning the percentages wise is the same. Your price may be $65,000 for that kitchen. My price might be $85,000 for the exact same kitchen. It could, I mean, the same cabinets, the same material, the same layout. It's identical. The difference in price is simply I want to make more money or I have more overhead. Maybe I have a showroom that, costs me $2,000 a month and you don't. You work out of your house. And there's nothing wrong with either one of those. It just means that I have more overhead. So I simply have to charge more to stay in business. And this is why I said earlier that, like, when someone says, well, this other company is at $4,000 cheaper, that does not mean by default that they're going to get a crappier result. It could simply mean that two different people have different overheads and different profit margins, right? So I'm trying to get this in your head. Like, it's not, when people talk about price, they don't hire you based on price. I'm telling you right now, guys, price is not number one. The people hire you. They hire you as an individual. Now, they don't necessarily have to like you, right? I've said before, people hire people they know, like, and trust, and that is true. That is true. When people will hire you who they know, like, and trust. However, if the value is so extreme, people will bypass the fact that they like you to hire you because there's so much value, right? So that's the exception to that. But generally, people will hire people they know, like, and trust. So when you're on the sales call, you're building this value with them. The way you talk to them, the questions you ask, you're really understanding what the problem is. And by the way, guys, people they pay for problem solved. I don't know if you understand this concept. People pay for their problems to be solved, not for a pretty kitchen. A pretty kitchen is just the surface level end result that they want. That is not the problem that you're solving. And so if you don't understand the problems that your customers have, you won't be able to effectively communicate to them as to why you're the person that can solve their problem. So when you understand that you're a problem solver in terms of trying to understand what problems they have, then you're going to miss that on the sales call. Another question: the best way to profit on bathroom and kitchen. I don't understand the question. How do I get the cost of materials? You just job cost it. Like, if you're building a deck, you can call your lumber company and be like, "Hey, I need 25 2 by 10s and 150 2 by 4s and blah, 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 blah," and they'll send you your pricing. That's literally how you get your material cost. Depending on what you're doing, like, you just a lot of times you send them off to your material salesman, and they'll figure it out for you, or you may have to do it yourself. But as you're doing things, you should be keeping track of what that is. So, if you order a window, if you're gonna do a job with a window, of 3 by 4 double pane window, or not double pane, but um, whatever, double window, then you would kind of keep that number, right? If the window's $300, then in the future, the window's gonna be $300 depending on how far that out is. So that doing materials is probably the easiest thing to do. The hardest thing to figure out is your labor in terms of how long something's gonna take to get the right amount. That's why job costing is so critical. You have to job cost so you know if you miss something. Derek said the podcast this morning was great. Is this recorded or rewatch? Yeah, Derek, it is in the it's live in my Facebook group. So you can watch it in my Facebook group. Joshua says the number one thing to maximize profit is time once you've given the price. Just don't compromise quality. The number one thing to maximize profit is time. I mean, you're talking about efficiencies. Efficiencies are good, but efficiencies should be one of the last things you work on in your business. You got to maximize profit first. Being efficient will not make you more profit, by the way. You have to be profitable first before you're efficient. Efficiency just adds to that. It just helps you make even more money. It's a lie that I believe for a long, long time. Do I get resistance when asking for payment for the estimate? Sometimes. Sometimes I do. Um, Derek said I had a hospital phone call and missed most of this one. Yeah, man, just go to if you're not on my Facebook group, Derek, then I think you're the same Derek that's in there. I don't know names, so I don't know, but, just go to my, Harness the Power. It's so weird because on my phone, the name is Harness the Power, and on the desktop, it's Derek. So, like, the usernames, are not the same. Yeah, just watch the replay in the group, Derek. Thanks. I'm glad you like the podcast. Do I get resistance when asking for payment? Yes, sometimes. And you can get resistance only because it's new to a lot of people, especially if they've been getting free estimates forever. And you're like, "Hey, I charge $500." Whoa, wait, what do you mean $500? Um, that's crazy. No one's ever charged me $500 before. Yeah, I get that all the time. You know, is that going to be a deal breaker? Sometimes it's that simple. But if you've done the correct job and you've built enough value through the sales call, they're going to be more likely to be okay with it. So it's all part of the process, guys. It's all part of the process. I can't give you every single thing that you need on this live. And so that's why, and I got to hop off here, but I want to share with you guys. If you're in the Facebook group, you already know this because you'll see the post. If you're watching me on TikTok and you're not in my Facebook group, you wouldn't know this, but I'm launching a new product, a new course, if you will, that is focused strictly on sales. My other coaching product called the Profit Club, that's about all aspects of business, all aspects of business. We talk about sales, we talk about marketing, we talk about mindset, we talk about KPIs, financing. It's really to build your business, like a well-rounded business. But some people don't necessarily need all of that, and they just want to get better at sales. And so that's why I created the sales accelerator. It's the Profit Club Sales Accelerator. I've taken the sales portion out of the Profit Club and I've created it as a standalone product that you can join at a much more discounted rate, because the other problem that I run into is a lot of contractors are interested in joining, but they simply can't afford it financially yet. And I understand that. And so the sales accelerator is designed to get you better at sales so that you can charge more money and make more money so that you can have a better business. And then later on, if you want to join the profit club, you can do that. Or if sales is all you need help with, we can do that too. I'm going to be launching this on Black Friday. This coming Friday is when it's going to launch. And for the people that are in my Facebook group, and I'm sure I'll do a video here on TikTok, but if you don't, you may not get it on TikTok. That's why it's important to make sure you're in my Facebook group or in my email list, and I'll send out the information. But on Black Friday, I'm going to be having a special promo for a certain number of people to get a pretty substantial deal when I launch this. Okay. So if you are interested in the sales accelerator, pay attention to what's coming up for Black Friday. Join my free Facebook group to get in there to get information, or sign up for my email list. It's going to launch on 7 on Friday, Derek. I'm going to have a post that will go out Friday morning at 7 a.m. Central Standard Time, and it will have all the information about the program as far as the promo. Okay. Um, User 308, blah, 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 also known as Clark 8080. You should have a 50% gross profit margin. That means if you do a $50,000 kitchen, okay, you should have $25,000 left over after you've paid for your labor and your materials. You still have to take your overhead out of that, but you'll have 25,000 left over to go towards your overhead and profit. And if your overhead is like, say, 25% on average, then that means you will have a 25% net profit on the $50,000 job. I'm sorry, I did that wrong. My brain's not working. If it was 50, you have 25, and then 25% off of 25,000, which is what? I don't know. You understand it. Hopefully, understand it. I'm not that smart, guys. I'm really not that smart. I suck at math. I suck at English, and if I can do it, really anyone can do it. Because like I don't know how else to make that more obvious. Because I'm terrible at math, terrible at English, but I just understand people and how to talk to people, how to communicate effectively. So, but yeah, you should have a 25% gross profit left over. With that, guys, I gotta head out here. I gotta go and take care of some stuff. So pay attention for the Black Friday deal. It's coming out. It'll launch Friday morning. It should go pretty quick. I've made this as affordable as possible so that as many contractors can get in there and get the training that they need. And like I said, if you're on TikTok, make sure you're following me somehow, either on my email list or join my free Facebook group. It's in my bio, guys. You can just go right to my bio and get that information, sign up, and all that. All right. So I appreciate it, Derek. I appreciate it. Yeah, getting better at math. Thanks. All right, guys. Have a great evening, and if I don't talk to you before then, have a great Thanksgiving. Make sure you're count your blessings, be thankful, and hopefully I'll see you guys on Friday. Thank you so much. Have a good one.